You guys ready?
Ready on this?
Ready. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. My name is Gene Fisher, Genefischer. I'm the sheriff of Greene County. And up here with me is Steve Haller, the Greene County prosecutor, David Hayes, the assistant Greene County prosecutor, Chief Brian Carlson from the Yellow Springs Police Department, and Captain Sean Magato of the Greene County Sheriff's Office, and he's in charge of the criminal investigation section. We're here to talk about an arrest last Friday night of a murder suspect. A little bit of history on this. Go back over here. On February 7th, 2019, a young man from Yellow Springs by the name of Leonid Clark was reported missing and had not been seen since January the 13th of 2019. On April the 12th of 2019, Mr. Clark's body was found on the banks of the Little Miami River just west of Grinnell Road. The next day, an autopsy was conducted and the body was identified as Mr. Clark. The autopsy indicated that Mr. Clark suffered multiple stab wounds which caused his death. And as a result, the Greene County Sheriff's Office investigated this case as a homicide. Investigators from my office began the process of identifying and interviewing associates of the victim, which included a Zirian Atha Arnett, and we first had contact with him on April 23rd, 2019. Hundreds of interviews were conducted by my investigators, multiple search warrants were served, and assistance for further investigation was requested and received from the Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost and the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. Thousands of hours put into this investigation by all parties involved, and at this time I want to thank everybody involved in that. Mr. Zirian on May the 7th, Zirian advised us that he was in trouble in Clark County for pointing a loaded firearm at a co-worker in Clark County. He was later indicted and pled guilty to a charge up in Clark County. Fast forward to November 8th. And on November 8th, last Friday, we requested and received a probable cause warrant for murder and felonious assault for the arrest of Zirian, and we were able to locate him Friday night. And today, I will at this time turn it over to the Greene County prosecutor for comments on what happened today.
Thank you, Sheriff. The defendant has been indicted. He was indicted this week for 3 counts. Count 1 is murder, count 2 is murder, count 3 is felonious assault. He was charged in the alternative for murder, what we call felony murder, and purposeful murder. The case was presented to the grand jury this week. The indictment was just filed this afternoon, and the case has been assigned to Judge Michael A. Buckwalter. Bond is currently set at $900,000 cash, and we expect the arraignment to be next Friday. In my office, I have assigned this case, in the process of assigning this case to a trial team. It'll be headed by David Hayes, who's the chief trial counsel in the Greene County Prosecutor's Office. We've been proud to assist the sheriff and BCI over these last many months in analyzing the evidence, helping them prepare search warrants, of which there were several, and we're at that point now where the grand jury's indicted the defendant, and the legal proceedings will proceed. Thank you.
The probable cause warrant was filed in Xenia Municipal Court, and there's a statement of facts on that, that if you haven't got that yet, and do you want additional information as far as everything involved in this case and what led to the charges, it does include everything, but what we want to release right now, I would recommend going over there, and a copy of the indictment from today has been has been filed in the Greene County Clerk of Court's office upstairs. Brian, I don't know if you wanted to say anything or not.
I'd like to just special thanks to Sheriff Fisher, Greene County Sheriff's Department, BCI, Captain Sean Magato and his detectives for their tireless work in this heinous case. I'd like to thank the Village of Yellow Springs for the assistance, the tips, the searches. I'd like to thank Buckeye Search and Rescue Dogs for their assistance in the searches. And I'd like to say thank you to the Clark family for enduring what must be the most terrible reality that a parent could possibly face. Know that you are in our hearts and our prayers. Thank you.
And with that, if anybody has any questions that we can answer, we'd be more than happy to take those.
Can you talk about the tips? Did that lead to this suspect, or how did you kind of, I know it's in the summary facts, but how did you kind of develop that?
You know, we started doing a lot of interviews right in the beginning, and things were not panning out the way we wanted it to, so we did offer a $5,000 reward, and a lot of that created more of a problem than it was a benefit. We had one person, I believe she called in 20 different names. This is the people that did it, so we haven't been able to determine. We don't believe that the tips have actually helped from the reward. And we did get some phone calls that were outside the reward, and most of the information was developed from the interviews and what the investigators were able to come up with.
Did the two have an association with each other?
I don't know if do you want to?
Well, yes, it's our understanding they've been lifelong friends on and off. It's been described as a hit and miss relationship, a love-hate relationship. These are some of the ways it's been described to us by the people we've talked to. But yes, they've known each other for a long time.
Any idea of a possible motive behind this?
That will come out trial.
Do you have any reason to believe that maybe the harm was done elsewhere other than the recovery scene?
We think it was all done in the general, excuse me, Sheriff.
In the general vicinity of where we recovered the body.
Can you explain the difference between the two murder charges, kind of what each one carries with them, and then how that works?
Sure. Murder in Ohio can be a purposeful taking the life of another. That's murder. Another form of murder is causing the death of another person while committing a felony offense of violence of either the first or second degree. In this case, we allege felonious assault. You can only be sentenced on one murder. This is one murder. I don't want to confuse anybody by thinking we're talking about two different cases. It's just two different ways, alternative ways, of approaching a trial, of approaching presenting evidence to a jury so that they have options and alternatives when we talk about motive and purpose and why this happened and how this happened. So that's the theory. And that's why I say they're alternative counts, because there is one murder and you can only be convicted and sentenced on one. But the possible penalty for murder in Ohio is 15 to life.
So this is not a case where the death penalty could be sought?
No, this is not a death penalty case.
Can you talk about technology a little bit? My understanding that cell phones might have played a big part in coming up with a suspect?
That's true. Cell phones, computers, cell technology, frankly, that's one reason there were so many search warrants issued in this case, was to obtain that kind of information. You know, evidence, circumstantial evidence, direct evidence to show where people were, what they were saying to each other, how they were communicating, whether they were texts, phone calls, emails, cell phone pings, GIS information. There's a lot of data that was gathered through search warrants and analyzed with the help of BCI.
And from what I understand, your suspect did visit or return to the scene of the crime a dozen or more times? I mean, I'm assuming that's...
Yeah, I would refer to the statement of facts and the
Okay.
complaint, because I think we went into some detail on that. Yeah.
Are you looking at any other arrests, any other connections?
No, ma'am.
I will add on to that. We don't plan on making any more arrests, but we still have a lot to do with this case. So, whatever we find as we go down the road, whether it leads to more charges or changing the charges, that's to be determined. To your answer, the electronics, the technology that we have available to us was a tremendous asset in this investigation. And another asset that we utilized very heavily was an analyst specifically trained to review all the interviews that we did and put all this information together on a computer so we can timeline things. And I think that's the wave of the future in law enforcement, but this analyst was an excellent addition to this investigative team, and she works for BCI and just did a great job.
Sheriff, I know you mentioned Arnett had some trouble in Clark County, but does he have a record in Greene County?
Nope, no record in Greene County.
What number of homicides cases are you currently investigating for 2019? I mean,
For us?
I'm trying to recall offhand, is there any other in the county?
I think all.
Not for us.
There are some in the county. There's Sheriff's Office.
Within your jurisdiction?
Just the Sheriff's Office. This was the one we've been working on, and we have nothing active right now.
Anything we should have asked you we didn't?
No, just nothing else. No other questions?
What about the weapon? Was the weapon found?
We're not going to mention any more about the evidence other than what we have and what you can find in the complaint. And there's a very sound reason for that. We are not going to try this case in a press conference. We're not going to try it in the media. We're going to let the process proceed the way it's supposed to. So we are somewhat limited in what we can tell you today. And that's about all I can say about that.
Thank you all for coming. If you're wondering about the beards, we're doing No Shave November to raise money for Michael's House, a child advocacy center in Greene County.